As you can see from this tier list, or from watching my videos where I set expectations lower than a Snorlax's belly to the ground, Ascended Heroes hasn't had much of an impact on the best decks in Japan. Aside from N Zoroark EX getting a boost, nothing's really changed. Especially not on the new decks front, where every Mega has been an overall disappointment. Though again, none of that should be surprising. Before I continue, it's worth noting that this will simply give us an idea of what to expect from our Ascended Heroes meta come January 29th. Since Mega Charizard YEX is being included in our set and Japan won't get it for a couple more weeks, our format will be slightly different. However, Mega Zard Y is being included in a start deck, and Japanese starter decks are almost never impactful since the cards are designed for new players and feature basic attacks. Still, I figured it was worth pointing out to reduce the amount of potential actuallys in the comments. Let's start with the Mega I'm most excited for, Froslass. Since Mega Froslass EX does 50 damage times the number of cards in your opponent's hand, all for a single energy, I thought it'd do well paired with Frostmoth. After all, if Melanie's Ace is in the active, both players are forced to draw a card. Chuck in Surfing Beach plus Iono or Lucian or Harlequin, and the Frost Queen can deal a ton of damage for little effort. Turns out, at least through the first weekend, Japanese players have gone for a more conservative approach. As you can see from the list, Mega Froslass is merely added as a backup attacker in a typical Froslass Munkidori Badoo deck. And I can't say I hate it. Not only does the deck now have access to a 70 hit point snow run, it can one-shot Megas with Froslass. The previous strategy of item locking with Badoo and spreading counters using Munkidori and Froslass remains, with Yveltal there to potentially trap somebody like Latias EX, while De-Evolution is there to wipe their board. Just keep in mind that there's no basic water energy here, so Mega Froslass is only attacking after attaching a luminous energy. That previous list I showed had Neutralization Zone as the A-spec, but overall Secret Box does seem like the best choice. It can get you pretty much everything you need, including a Stadium if they try to put Battle Cage down and stop your strategy. Other popular cards here are Maractus in place of Yveltal for the ability, Shaman to protect your bench from Greninja EX and Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, and Cramorant and Moltres as alternate attackers who can deal decent damage for 1 energy. You just have to be aware that putting Shaman or Psyduck down in a Froslass deck means you need to use Munkidori to heal them, which is less than ideal, like when you order a barrel of Foot Lotion on Black Friday and it leaked during transit. Ironically, there have been 2 successful lists pairing Mega Froslass with Frostmoth, except it's the old spreading Frostmoth, not the new drawing cards one. Basically, the list and strategy is essentially the same as Froslass Munkidori Badoo, except instead of Badooing them for 3 or 4 turns, you try to put them to sleep like it's a parent-teacher meeting about your kid who won't stop biting his classmates. If you're able to keep them asleep for even 1 turn, that could turn the tide of battle, because spreading 40 damage to all their Pokemon plus a couple of Munkidori pings puts most things in range of de-evolution. Ultimately, after a few days, Mega Froslass EX has seen success. It just hasn't done anything as a pure attacking deck yet, which makes me a sad Pangoro. Before I have to pretend like Mega Electros EX is playable, let's talk about Mega Dragonite EX. While it has access to Dragonair for consistency, more hit points, and no weakness, the fact that it's a stage 2 and requires a water energy has always put it lower than Mega Manectric in my opinion. It appears Japanese players share my sentiment that socks are optional at IRL tournaments, and also that Dragonite isn't busted because it's not exactly gliding to multiple wins. The most common list pairs Mega Dragonite with Electric, so it's effectively a Mega Manectric deck, except now you have to devote extra slots to getting stage 2 up and running plus water energy. This was the first winning list from Japan, and it's exactly what you think, albeit with a spicy Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. Since Dragonite's ability gives you a free switch every turn, you can reliably use Ogerpon multiple times per game, powering it up with Electric if you're able to get a few lightning in the discard pile. Otherwise, it's just a case of getting Dragonite into play, Ryu gliding for 330 every turn, using Dragonite's ability to put it on the bench the following turn, and re-accelerating that lost energy with Electric. It sounds simpler than it actually is. Almost immediately, though, Japanese players discovered that, hey, Electric can evolve into Electros, so they put a copy of Mega Electros into the deck. Probably the most striking thing about every Dragonite list I saw is that there's 0 rare candy, which is by design. Turn 1, you want to get down at least 1 Dratini and evolve into it with TM Evolution. Then you use Dragonair's ability to find all your evolutions for the rest of the game, smoothing out your draws like they're freshly lotioned feet. Another benefit of Dragonite's ability is that you can run Tatsugiri and Mega Kangaskhan without the need for Air Balloon or Latias EX. Sure, it's greedy, but if it works, you look like a genius. And of course, Zeraora is a great bench sniper for the deck, able to one-shot Fezandipiti and Latias for 3 energy. But like I said, the reason Dragonite hasn't taken off is because it's just a worse Manectric. They both do 330 damage, except Manectric doesn't force you to discard energy. Plus, Magnetric has a first attack that walls basics, and while it might not have a switching ability, Magnetric does have free retreat. So yes, while Dragonite is strong and can create some new strategies, the Pokemon Company already gave us a good Mega who pairs with Electric and does 330 damage while discarding energy. Now we come to Mega Electros. The best thing this guy has going for it is that it evolves from Electric. Because 2 Lightning to spread 60 damage to 2 targets on a Stage 2 3-prizer is massively underwhelming. 190 for Paralysis while being forced to discard 2 of the 3 energy isn't much better, but it can at least lock your opponent for a few turns if abused properly. Turns out my previous premonitions were perfect. If you take out all the victories it achieved being a part of Mega Dragonite, Mega Electros only has 2 gym battle wins to go along with 0 finishes in the top 8 or 16 of larger tournaments. That's worse than bad. Ingeniously though, it was paired with Iono's Kilowattrel. So while you aren't dealing much damage, at least you're drawing a bunch of cards. Plus, there's 4 copies of Canary. This means you're always getting the Pokemon you need, always putting energy in the discard pile, and always deluding yourself into thinking that this is playable. Unfortunately, I think that cleverness kinda went away when they decided to make it an Area 0 deck. I understand bench space is tight, especially when you have to evolve your Energy Accelerator into your attacker, but Terapagos and Pikachu aren't doing a whole lot here. While I think this list is an Iron Valiant effort, I imagine it'll evolve over time, provided Japanese players don't see it as a lost cause and move on. Because in case you've forgotten, TCG Live doesn't exist over there. Every card has to be bought. And Pokemon cards aren't cheap, so wasting time and money on a useless Mega isn't something they really do. If Electros has any chance of being a thing, it'll probably need to play a bunch of switches and de-evolutions to properly utilize the Paralysis and Spreading. And if it wants to be an attacking deck, Iron Hands, Zekrom, and Zeraora all seem like better candidates than Area 0, which the second winning list did. But with rotation taking Iron Hands and de-evolution and Generator early next year, the deck will somehow get even worse. How about we lift the mood by looking at how some of the older decks have performed thanks to new Ascended Heroes cards. And by far the best is N Zoroark EX, which is massively improved thanks to N Zekrom. The classic N Zoroark scenario is that your opponent would target your lone Reshiram, you couldn't recover it, and oops, now Zoroark can't do anything. With Zekrom, you gain access to another attacker, this time allowing Zoroark to deal 250 damage every turn. Over just the first 3 days, it won 7 tournaments while also adding 26 finishes in either top 8 or top 16. And a few of those saw it being the runner-up. Yeah, I'm thinking Zoroark's back. This is an amalgamation of what most Zoroark decks look like now. 2 Zekrom, 1 Reshiram, and a 2/2 Darmanitan means you can copy all of N's best attackers. Pecharunt EX and N's Castle allow you to switch out a Zoroark after using Zekrom's attack. And ironically, getting N's PP up makes things less hard on your energy attachments. Aside from that, it's a typical N Zoroark deck, and you should expect to see it quite a bit more starting in late January. What I learned by skimming through all the tournaments is that there's no one perfect Zoroark list. Zekrom only hits for 250, so you need to boost that. Black Belt's Training, Maximum Belt, Defiance Band, Binding Mochi, Gravity Mountain, and more are ways to take big KOs. On the A-Spec side, Secret Box, Prime Catcher, and Hero's Cape are all good candidates. Cyrano, meanwhile, is always a consideration over Arven since he just goes and gets 3 Zoroark from deck. Provided you get a bunch of Zorua down turn 1, Cyrano basically guarantees you're drawing a ton of cards turn 2. Then from there, you do Zoroark things and try to win, all while laughing about how I finally have to admit that this is a good deck. Remember how I just revisited the Rotom Tools deck because they gave us Rotom EX who doubles the amount of tools each Rotom can have? Well, at the end of January, we're getting a Psychic Rotom who does some amazing things. The first attack is a Precious Trolley for Rotom, while the second is your typical Gadget Show. Except now you can hit things like Mega Lucario and Dragapult for weakness. Looking at the one successful list so far though, I'm underwhelmed. They cut Treasure Tracker for Town Store, which means Battle Cage is out. And the tool spread seems odd, especially when I struggled so mightily to get energy into play. Counter Gain should absolutely be a 4 of here. Lily's Clefairy definitely seems like an auto-include now though, since Psychic Rotom can easily one-shot dragons. However this ends up performing when I play it again in February, Rotom adds one more tool to the shed. Personally, I don't think Honchkrow will murder a lot of decks when it arrives in Ascended Heroes, but one player in Japan did the thing and won a small tournament with Team Rocket's Porygon Z plus Honchkrow. The combo is blatant. Honchkrow discards any number of Team Rocket supporters from hand, dealing 60 damage for each. Then Porygon does 20 damage for each Team Rocket supporter in your discard pile. This helps accelerate the process because Porygon has always struggled to fill up the discard. Aside from Ultra Ball and its ability, there wasn't much else you could do. Honchkrow fixes that. Load up the list with all 20 Team Rocket supporters, then hope the draws work out while you take big one-hit KOs every turn. This has all the makings of a good rogue deck and I'll definitely play it. I just don't think it'll crack the mainstream like my butt when I bathe in a small river. Unlike Pokemon TCG Live, I'll be expanding upon what I talked about earlier. The ham-fisted joke there is that the live dev said they're still working on adding expanded cards 4 freaking years later while still being unable to fix years-long bugs in Standard. Anyway, Canary has a really good chance of reviving Iono's Bellibolt. You discard a Lightning Energy or any other card from hand, then grab 4 Lightning Pokemon from deck. Bellibolt EX can be one of those, and it can accelerate all Lightning from hand to your Iono's Pokemon. And Kilowattrel draws you up to 6 by discarding energy from itself. And Voltorb does 20 damage plus 20 more for each energy attached to all your Iono's Pokemon. With Levincia recovering 2 energy every turn, this thing can get nuttier than a professor. While I think the Japanese player went a little overboard with 22 energy, Canary means you can spend less time thinking about finding your stage 1s and more time thinking about how Game Freak just copy and pasted Iono for Canary's design. In addition to that pure Ionos list, Raging Bellibolt EX is primed to make a comeback as well. I seem to recall the deck needing 3 fighting and 3 energy switch because of PDCGL prizing shenanigans, but aside from that, 4 Canary gets your Bellibolts and Kilowattrels who accelerate and draw, thus allowing Raging Bolt to take big KOs. It feels crazy to say out loud, but when Professor Sada rotates at the end of March, this could be our best way to play Raging Bolt next year. Obviously, people will try things like Crispin and Glass Trumpet first. I'm just not sure it's better than drawing a bajillion cards every turn. Finally, Light Ball has had the kind of impact we all expected. A single copy has been put into Joltik box so Pikachu EX can deal 350 damage. And that's about it if the one winning list I could find is anything to go by. I will note that Limitless hasn't updated their Japanese tournament page yet, so I had to manually go to PokéCallBook to find everything, and some things could have fallen through the cracks. Regardless, Light Ball turns Joltik box into an even bigger threat. Though when it loses Iron Hands and Miraidon and Arven in March, it'll have a lot of work to do to remain relevant post-rotation. If you're wondering where Mega Hawlucha and Mega Scrafty are, well, if I had to guess, I'd say in the garbage. Aside from Mega Froslass and maybe Mega Dragonite, it doesn't appear as though Ascended Heroes is going to add any new decks to Standard in the 2 months ahead of every G-Block card rotating out. That being said, Zoroark EX does get a lot stronger, and Canary might help Lightning decks have one last hurrah before Miraidon and Iron Hands and Electric Generator are gone for good. As a reminder, this was a very, very early look at Ascended Heroes decks. We still don't know our full set list yet, and things will shift over the next several weeks, so make sure you're subscribed, because I'll have plenty of videos where I talked about sweaty feet and people in the comments will get mad at me for appreciating an oft-forgotten body part that deserves more attention.